Well, listeners, if you love horror films, we've got something very, very special for you on the show right now. Those guys that we know and love at Monster Pictures are running a very, very special Monster Fest Weekender 3D that's going to be on in Melbourne, Sydney, Brisbane, Adelaide, and Perth. Now, it kicks off in Melbourne this weekend, and then it moves to Adelaide, Brisbane, Perth, and Sydney on the 14th to the 16th of July. And we thought, we want to know a little bit more about what we're going to get out of this Weekender 3D, so we thought we would actually get Jarrett from Monster Pictures on the phone right now to chat about this awesome weekends that are coming up. So Jarrett, welcome to the program.
Thanks, Dave. Pleasure to be here.
Now, mate, we know and love Monster Fest. I've been going to it since the very first Monster Fest, so tell us a little bit about what is going to be special about Monster Fest Weekender 3D.
Well, for the first time in Monster Fest history, we decided we'd actually do a program completely comprised of like classic movies. So rather than just, new release sort of films that are doing the festival circuit globally, we thought let's dig back catalogue and let's put together a program of films from, over the decades, from the 50s right through to, the 2010s. And we'll go one step further and we'll do it all completely in 3D.
What was it that sparked that interest in 3D? Like, was that something that was thrown around the office and you all decided it was a great idea, or how did you get to that idea of all the films being 3D?
I honestly think it was, we screened Friday the 13th Part 3 in 3D last year at Monster Fest across Australia, but when we came out of that screening in Melbourne, it was just such an amazing feeling. Like, the film is what it is. It's a classic sort of slasher, but it's the third film in a franchise. But the fact that it was in 3D just literally added, this completely different feeling to the movie. And people haven't seen, some of these classic films in 3D before, at least not on the big screen. And so after experiencing that, we just went, what if we were to try and do a 3D festival? And then it was just trying to assemble the films. Like, we had a lot of different films to pick from over the decades, but, you've got to chase materials, you've got to find who owns what, and then you've got to deal with, different distributors, and some distributors, they don't even want to have some 3D films screened in Australia, which is unfortunate because there was two films that we would have loved to include, but unfortunately, we just couldn't come to an agreement with the distributors on those two titles.
Now, I know from having discussions with you over the years, you are a great film historian. You would have known about a lot of these movies. How did you go about putting together that list of the films that you wanted to screen at the festival?
Well, part of it was the fact there was films that I've seen and I've never seen in 3D. Like, I've never seen, House of Wax from 1953 in 3D. I've only ever seen it in 2D. I've seen it on Blu-ray. But, unfortunately, the way things are these days, 3D at home isn't really an option as everyone upgrades their TVs to 4K and things of that nature. That 3D capability is lost because it's, part of the last generation of TVs. So even if I picked up a Blu-ray in 3D, I wouldn't be able to watch it. So part of it was my own personal interest in things. If I'm interested in it, I know there's got to be other people out there interested in it. Some were experiences, like My Bloody Valentine 3D I saw when it came out theatrically in, 2009, and I just thought it was revolutionary. It was just prior to Avatar coming out, and it was a really immersive 3D experience, and it was one unlike anything I'd seen before. A really gratuitously, violent and fun slasher movie, all done practically in 3D, and it was phenomenal. And then you kind of go through the other films like, Andy Warhol's Flesh for Frankenstein, which is, a bit of a staple of the genre. And, try and sort of meet the expectation of all attendees. Some people just want a simple slasher like, Texas Chainsaw 3D. Some people want to see something they've never seen before, like something like Silent Madness 3D, which is a slasher that was really badly mishandled in distribution in Australia back in the day. It was supposed to be released in theatres in 1984. The distributors sat on it and ended up dumping it to video in like 1988. So by that point in time, no one got to see that in 3D, and I doubt many people saw it at all. Even the video art was was not representative of the film at all. It was a completely different image of someone that wasn't in the movie. So I think that's going to be a great sort of obscurity, and having those type of films in the program where people can see something and discover something as well. And then, classics like Amityville 3D, the third sequel in the Amityville franchise, probably the last good Amityville movie, and, having that play and people getting to see that on a big screen. And I mean, that's got like Laurie Loughlin and, Meg Ryan very early in their careers, and seeing that on the big screen. And I dare say there's a lot of people that grew up with that on VHS and have never seen it in 3D. So the opportunity to sort of do a program of, classics, obscurities, and even in the instance of Texas Chainsaw 3D, that's an interesting one, because that was a film that a distributor licensed here in Australia, and despite it having been very successful in the United States, they decided they weren't even going to release it in cinemas, so they just dumped it to DVD and Blu-ray back in the day. So that's never played on the big screen in Australia, and it certainly hasn't played in 3D. So, yeah, part of the thing was, let's give people an opportunity to experience things they either haven't seen before or haven't, experienced before, but at the same time also give them a bit of what they'll want, and if that's Flesh for Frankenstein or Amityville, then so be it.
How does that feel for you personally, being part of a group that's able to show these classic films and perhaps introduce them to a whole new audience as well? That must feel pretty special.
Oh, it's an absolute honour. It really is. Prior to moving to Monster Fest 7 years ago, I was attending the festivals like yourself and was just a huge fan of what they were doing. And then coming on board and being able to, curate and help shape the festival, whether it be like a repertory sort of 3D festival like this one or the annual festival later in the year, it was just a tremendous honour, because, part of it is you get to be a bit of a tastemaker. You get to watch, we watch a lot of films. Obviously, we watch, I'd say there's about, probably really about a seventh of the things that we watch end up making it into the festival. So we do see a lot, and we attempt to bring like the very best, whether it's, the best because artistically it's best, or whether it's just, pure sort of entertainment value best. So we do watch a lot of stuff, and I mean, some of the stuff can be a little bit draining. There's some, there's obviously some terrible films, but for every great film, there, of course, there's going to be like 5 not so great films. But yeah, I consider it an absolute, honor, and I love to talk to, anyone that attends the festival after the sessions to get their vibe and their feeling on the film, particularly the films that I really either fought for or I just really loved. I love hearing people's immediate impressions of the film as they leave the cinema. I know that some people like some time to process a movie, and I understand that. I'm like that too, often. But hearing that initial sort of reaction to a film, it's just terrific, because, it's a shared experience. So getting to see these films, with an audience, particularly the ones I really liked, it's just, it's a tremendous honour overall.
Definitely. Now, for all of our listeners out there, like I said, Monster Fest Weekender 3D is on in Cinema Nova in Melbourne this weekend, and then it moves to Adelaide, Brisbane, Perth, and Sydney on the 14th to the 16th. Jarrett, if people want to get tickets to head along to Monster Fest Weekender, where can they go to grab tickets?
You can go straight to monsterfest.com.au/weekender. And from there you can find all the participating cinemas, tickets and passes and anything else.
Awesome. Well, mate, thank you so much for taking the time to chat to us today. I'll be there this weekend here in Melbourne, so I'll make sure I come up and say hi, but thank you so much for taking the time to chat to us today.
Thanks, Dave. Appreciate the support, and I can't wait to see you on Friday night.